We are in י"ח עמוד ב', we studying from י"ח עמוד א', according to בית הלל. ואשכד אמר רב הושעיה אמר רב אסי, now the Rav Shia said, בנאום of רב אסי, מן תנא שביתת כלים דאורייתא בית שמאי ולא בית הלל? He argued on Rav Yosef. They said that kelim needs to be rest, it's only according to Bet Shammai. B'sila, there is no din of shvitat kelim, so B'sila you're allowed to do anything. The one who prohibited it's only Bet Shammai. We don't hold shvitat kelim. That's why Bet Shammai. מה אתה אומר? מדאורייתא, only Bet Shammai hold that kelim gotta be rest. But according to B'sila, kelim doesn't need to be rest.
What does it mean kelim need to be rest?
Meaning, you pot not allowed to work on Shabbat. Because it's not resting. All of kelim gotta be silence, no work on Shabbat. According to Bet Shammai.
מזלג.
לא, מזלג. Rest from something that אסור to do on Shabbat. So you're not allowed to cook on Shabbat, so you're not allowed to use your pot to cook on Shabbat.
Okay, but it's an obvious statement. What is that?
No, so let's see. So then according to Bet, now that we hold it according to Bet Shammai, there is the din of shvitat kelim. Bet Shammai ולא בית הלל. לבית שמאי, according to בית שמאי, בין כעביד מעשה, בין לא כעביד מעשה, אסור. According to בית שמאי, either if the guy does work, if it's moving or not moving, it's still אסור. Because anything, kelim not allowed to do any work on Shabbat, even if it's passive, like the cookie and the net. Everything, nothing allowed to be worked on Shabbat. If so, אסור לבית הלל, אף אגב בכעביד מעשה, Shari lebet Hillel, you kelim allowed to work on Shabbat and it's mutar. The Gemara says if so, ve'ashad amad lebet Shammai. Now you said according to Bet Shammai. Af al gav lo avid maaseh asuri v'do, he doesn't do any work, any job, nothing is moving. Kelim, even passive, kelim must be rest. If so, yachi mugmar v'gofrit, my time sharu Bet Shammai. What the reason they allowed the incense and the sulfur to be run on Shabbat? The Gemara says, Atam over there, we assume that you have a container. The Mishnah said it's mutar. The Braita we just mentioned it's mutar.
According to Bet Shammai?
We assume that it's Bet Shammai. Because they are the one who said that the meal, the grinding not allowed to be moved because of shvitat kelim. If so, according to them, if you have on a plate the incense and the sulfur, that the plate is working on Shabbat, the Gemara says, Lo, Atam anachara. We're talking about when it's on the floor. So there is no kelim involved and then it's mutar. The Gemara says, okay, that's going to work. Gigit, vener, vekdera, veshipud, my time sharu bet Hillel, to put in a bowl and a candle and a pot and a skewer. My time sharu bet Shammai. What the reason they permit it? Because the Gemara said, because in order to make, for example, beer, you got to have it on a jar and you got to go process through Shabbat. If so, according to Bet Shammai, how come it's going to be mutar? The Gemara says, the mafkar lehu afkurei. Bet Shammai hold that the way to do it, you got to be mafkir the kli. Then you are an ois owner of the kli. You own the ownership on the kli, you make it mafkir, and if it's not yours, it's allowed to work on Shabbat. So the case is that anything with kelim will be allowed according to Bet Shammai, only in the case that it was mafkir. The kelim.
למי זה שייך? מה זה מפקיר?
Nobody, anybody can grab it, anybody can take it.
Like your classic barbecue in Tennessee.
היו עליך in Tennessee. כמה היה לי in Tennessee? שמעת את הסיפור? I had a barbecue. So first trip I gave it to a guy, like, אתה רוצה, טבילת כלים. So he said, okay, he took it. I said, can I borrow it? He said, yeah. Then he gave it to me. Second time, a guy came over to me, he says, can I tell you something, you are to choose a nation, and the verse in this, it says on you, שמח אמר לי באנגלית.
למה אתה לוקח את זה?
So ממש told me, תגיד לא, הנה, תנסי על השוי הזה. אמרתי לו, can I give you a gift? I gave it to him. היה זה וגם סיר, I had a pat also. He said, thank you so much, it's such a meaningful gift for me. I really appreciate it. איך אני אקח את זה? אמרתי לו, can I borrow it from you? Okay. I gave him $20, נתתי לו $20. אמרתי לו, thank you so much for lending it.
Stop.
Okay.
אסור לך להסביר לו אחרי זה?
סרט טוב.
אמרתי לו, it's something religion we had to do. אבל לפחות כאילו, לא נעים אחי, הוא אומר לי תן כמעט כאלה חיבוק.
אני הפועל כושי שלי, אמרתי לו, הסתמתי לו, שזה מה שצריך.
נו. אסור לספר מה שצריך.
אחרי זה רע.
לא.
אסור לספר, you're not allowed to say it,
לא, אני מביא לך את זה, לא. whatever.
נו?
אז הבאתי לו את זה, זה היה משהו חשמלי שאי אפשר להטביל. הבאתי לו את זה. Exactly what I need, thank you!
ממש, כן?
לא תביא את זה!
אמרת לנו את הסיפור, בדיוק עלינו קרוב חדש. זה אבא שיש לו פועלת הרבה זמן.
אני האבא, נתתי את זה לכושי. זה אני האשם.
זה עם רק כספון, אמרתי לה,
זה מקליט.
Exactly what I needed.
לא הביא לה, כי עכשיו קיבלנו את הקופסה. thank you. I'm like, wait, Maria, can I borrow it? Okay, נתנת לי? I'm like, thank you. She's like, how? I was like, can I borrow it for like a year or two? ואז היא אמרה לי, אוקיי.
So now you can't do it anymore.
אמרתי לה, I was like, I go to her, I'm like, ואז הסברתי לה, I'm like, now you are one time use. אמרתי לה, now you know the shtick, אז אמרתי לה, ואז היא קלטה שעשיתי עליה שטיק, אז היא כאילו הייתה, שגוז פעם הבאה תעשה לי את זה. כי אני יודעת עכשיו מה אני אגיד לך לא, כן? ואז היא אמרה לי, no, I'm not gonna give it back to you.
חזק, אתה יכול לעשות את זה. אז אם היא רוצה, היא נותנת.
היא אמרה לי שאני לא אביא לך את זה פעם הבאה. והיא אומרת לי, מה לפעמים, היא פלפלית, זאת.
לא פלפלית, לא, אסור להביא לכאלה פלפלים, אחי. רק למפגרים, אוקיי. מן תנא ליד אתונו רבונו. אבל לא יותר מדי מפגרים.
במקרה הזה אני יצאתי למפגר.
מן תנא ליד אתונו רבונו. Who said the following ברייתא? לא תמלא אישה כדירה.
What's that elephant up?
It's the location where it said that statement elsewhere. לא תמלא אישה כדירה עסיסיות ותורמסים. A lady should not fill up a pot full of beans and fasulya ותניח לתוך התנור and put it inside of the oven. ערב שבת עם חשיכה on Friday before dark. ואם נתנן, meaning she's not allowed to put a pot. You used to have fasulya and beans, you want it to be in the oven 24 hours. So a lady not allowed to put it before Shabbat in the oven and take it after Shabbat. למה? אם נתנן למוצאי שבת אסורים, if she put it on מוצאי שבת it's אסור, בכדי שיעשו, but the time that it takes to make it. So if she put it for 24 hours in the oven, מוצאי שבת, she wanted to use
she
it.
takes it out specifically after Shabbat.
So she wanted to be cooked through Shabbat. If she leave it there throughout Shabbat, and now Motzei Shabbat she wanted, and the Rav Tzalak Gemara, we're not allowed to do it. She gotta wait. Good question. We'll talk about it now. She gotta wait b'chdei sheyasu, like the time it takes to. The time it takes to do it. Meaning, if it takes 24 hours, so Moshe Shabbat, she needs to count 24 hours, and then they're allowed to do it. You shouldn't gain by the time they're allowed to eat it. Then you're not allowed to gain by the time doing it on Shabbat. She did something asur on Shabbat.
That's only if she wants to eat it, Motzei Shabbat.
Yeah, as soon as we don't want her to gain from what she did on Shabbat.
לא נכון, אבל אני שואל.
כן, אם היא רוצה עוד שבועיים, אין בעיה.
לא, לא שבועיים, בשבת.
בשבת אסור? בטח שאסור. Because it's done on Shabbat, כל שכן.
אפשר לאכול את זה בשבת?
Talk about coming soon. But basically, here we see who is the one who hold that. No, by the way,
I think it's an opinion, not a...
that's בית שמאי ובית הלל. בית הלל מותר. בית שמאי
לא מותר.
אסור. So who would be that ברייתא? לכאורה בית שמאי. כיוצא בעושים על דין to it, לא ימלא נחתום חבית של מים ויניח לתוך התנור עם חשיכה. A baker shouldn't fill up a barrel of water and leave it by the oven because it's better to mix the dough with hot water. And if you leave it over there and you get heat throughout Shabbat, it's אסור. ואם עשה כן, if you did it למוצאי שבת, right מוצאי שבת, אסורים, it's אסור right away, בכדי שיעשו, like the time it takes to do it. יפסוד את מוראה, סלימה, בית שמאי היא ולא בית הלל. Let's say our Mishnah, this is בית שמאי, but you're not allowed to do it, not בית הלל. The Gemara says לא, אפילו תאים בבית הלל, even according to בית הלל, it's אסור. למה? גזירה שמא יחטא בגחלים. We are concerned you might going to mix the coals
What?
Mix the coals? No,
Yeah.
Stock the coals? Stock the coals? So when you have, they used to bake on coals, נכון? If you put it on top, the lady gonna check the beans. Bona tma is not ready. The fire is not as hot. She's gonna mix stock. Give it a better word.
no,
Leaf fan.
fan the coals.
Fan the coals or mix
Heat
it up in order to
Heat the
Stoke?
coals fire.
He's like the word.
stock the coals, and that's gonna make
תדעו
it.
ככה,
It's like mixed.
And that's turning fire on Shabbat. So באמת הכהן, technically it's מותר to do
זה
it.
גזירה.
It's a gzera, am I going to mix the coals? The Gemara says, if so, yachi mugma vegofrit nami, they put incense and the sulfur throughout Shabbat. It's smoke.
fire.
Maybe he's also going to mix the fire over there. The Gemara says, lo, hatam, lo machtilu, he's not going to stoke the fire. You know why?
no
The
benefit.
machti salak bukutra, if he does it, will be smoke. The kashelu is not good to have smoke. You just want the incense and the sulfur to come out,
You
not
need
the
the
black
black
smoke. No, not the smoke. You need the sulfur, the smoke of the sulfur, not the smoke of the fire. If you're gonna mix the fire, it's gonna have the wrong smoke in, and it's not good for it.
Still, someone can do it by accident.
Huh?
They don't know better. Someone can do it.
No,
by
so
There's no
gzera,
benefit for
gzera, when right, there is
no
benefit
benefit.
from him to do it. Why would somebody do that when he's gonna ruin the clothing or the
But by
silver?
the food, he has benefit. He wants to eat the food. He
Right.
wants it to come out
Food he
better.
wanted to do.
He's gonna fan it. He made a
Unin shel pishtan, bundle of flax, nami ligzor. Let's make a gzera that it's asur. How come you're allowed to leave it over Shabbat? The Gemara says
וואי,
over
זה
there.
גם פייר?
מה אתה אומר?
זה גם על אש?
זה גם על אש. The Gemara says, הטם, כיוון דקשי להוזיקה, לא מגלי להו... Over there, since it's in the oven, if you're going to open the door of the oven, wind is going to come in. And wind is not good for flux. It's going to ruin it. So he's not going to open the oven. Since he's not going to open the oven, there is no chashash. By the way, oven of Chachamim, you know how it looks like?
outside.
Like an enclosed, like they do the pizza today.
Yeah.
נכון?
oven brick.
brick oven, yeah.
Oh, יש את זה,
So they're
לא?
keeping it closed.
ככה.
כן,
כמו
כן,
טבול.
כל האלה,
שאתם
like
מבינים
טבול.
למה, לא?
So they're keeping it closed because they don't want the wind to ruin the flux. And therefore, לא מגלי לו, we're not חושש he's going to open it, then if he's not going to open it, he's not going to mix the coals.
עכשיו שאלה. עכשיו
לא יהיה לו עוד שאלה בסוף. And when it says,
לא.
כיוון דקה של הזיקה לא מגלי לו. צמר ליורה, when you have wool in a pot, לגזור, because when the wood is in the pot, זה לא, it's not on an oven, it's on a stove top. You have fire on the bottom, and then you have a pot on top. If so, let's be גוזר. המשמואל ביורה עקורה, when you're allowed to leave it in the pot, we're talking about that it's off the fire. באמת, if it's on the fire, you're not allowed to. Talking about that, the pot, it's off the fire. פרדי גמורה, ואני חושב מה מגיזבה, even if it's off the fire, maybe it's going to open and mix it, so the color going to mix well in the wool. The Gemara says, לא, בעקורה ותוחה. We're talking about that it's off the fire, and on the cover, look at the coffee cup, there is cement around it, sealing it. You want
Sealing
it
what?
sealing the cover of the pot, of the wool, of the pot of the wool, so in order to create pressure. So then there is no chashash it's going to open it on Shabbat.
כמו הגומי שיש לנו עכשיו?
But more than that, you're putting cement around, so you want it to be sealed.
pressure cooker.
Since pressure cooking, excellent. Since you want it to be sealed pressure cooking, therefore we have no chashash it's going to open it on Shabbat.
Well, now you have חשש because it doesn't care for the wind.
No, but it's sealed. If it's sealed, it's not going to do it.
So why would it care in רוח?
מה אתה אומר?
רוצים בשביל...
No, but this is not ruach. Ruach only by an oven. Here we're talking about a pot. Ruach was by flax. Here we're talking about by wool. Wool, you don't leave it in the oven, you put it in a pot. The Gemara watching is going to mix the coals.
But without...
The Gemara said, no, it's off the fire, but it's going to stir the pot itself. What it's sealed is not going to stir it. Ve'ashka de'amar mar. Now the master says that we have a concern, gzera shema yichate b'kechalim. There is a concern, am I going to mix the fire, stoke the fire? I do want to say one thing. The reason today we cover our fire is because of that. Something to remind, we're going to see it later on in Gemara in Memchet.
Let me cover a fire.
Because by us, our fire, we put cover. We don't have open fire on Shabbat. This is to remind you not to mix the coals. By plata it's closed. Krakba, it's calm, the fire is quiet. So basically, we believe Chamin and Cholen because the fire is covered.
But it's not sealed.
Ashkenazim, you don't need sealed. If it's covered, it's fine. That's will remind you not to mix the fire. You need a reminder. So if you don't see the actual fire, Ashkenazim poskim machmirim to cover the nub. Then you not on the oven or the crock pot. Some of them put aluminum foil inside of the crock pot to remind you not to raise. But now all of our sugya is talking about the fire that is not covered. You have an open flame of fire. When you have an open flame of fire, are you allowed to leave food on top? No, because Shema, Yechatim, I'm going to make the course. But we're going to see in the Gemara some exceptions.
מותר לגוי לעשות את זה? מותר לגוי לעשות את זה?
מה שלך אסור לגוי. ואשתא דאמר גזירה שמא יחטא בגחלים. Now the master said, we concerning am I going to mix the coals? I קדרה חייתא. If you have a pot with raw food right before Shabbat, then shari, you're allowed להנוחה ערב שבת עם חשיכה. You're allowed to put it on ערב שבת before dark. למה? בתנור in the oven. מה איתה? מה? כיוון דלא חזי לאורתא, since anyway he's not going to use it at night because it's for the next day,
Shabbat.
then אסור חמסך דייתם מיני. He doesn't think about it anymore. Anything you leave in the oven for the next day, you don't check on it. You know it's going to get cooked throughout the night. ולא אתי לחתויה בגחלים. It's not going to mix the coals. So if it's raw food, raw pot, if you leave it in the oven, you're not going to eat it Friday night. Then you're not going to check on it.
Unless you're in
And you're not going to mix it, right? If you do have a problem. Now, by the way,
אבל אתה עושה כמו מה זה, שאמרנו מוצאי שבת. אני יודע שזה בשבת, אבל זה
כבר הפרטים האלה. עכשיו, by the way, how do you say raw in Hebrew?
חי.
חי, זה דף חי. זה סימן, this דף. עכשיו, הוא בשיל שפר דמי. If it's fully cooked, it's also מותר. למה? Because if it's fully cooked, you have nothing to check on it. You know it's fully cooked. So when it's a problem... כן, when it's a problem, כן, זה כבר עליו. when it's a problem, בשיל ולא בשיל, אסיר. If it's partially cooked, then it's אסור, because you're going to check on it on Shabbat, you're not going to mix the fire. וישתה בגרמה חיה, if you throw a raw piece, if you have a pot that is בשיל ולא בשיל, it's in between, but you threw a piece of meat, raw piece of meat into the pot, then shapir dami, you're not going to eat it at night. If you throw a piece of meat, you're going to eat it on the next day. So even though it's raw, it's still, even though it's in between, since you throw a raw piece of meat, it's mutar.
What's in between?
What's in between?
לא מאכל בין...
לא, או לא מבושל, כן, או פחות ממדורסאי, צריך לומר. יש מחלוקת על זה. So if it's נשתער, it's not really cooked. If you throw a raw piece, you're bringing it to the status of a raw food. ולא תוקן לשבת, בית הלל.
before Shabbat. זרקת את זה לפני שבת.
Just up there.
בית שמאי. Now we're only like בית הלל. That's why I said, our Gemara is בית הלל. The only reason not allowed, you're not going to mix the fire, but kelim allowed to work on Shabbat, according to בית הלל. Only mixing the fire, it's a gzera. So the gzera applies only on things that you partially do in the cooking. But anything raw, not. הרב שרבני told me that he used to sleep by חכם בן ציון אבא שאול בבית שלו, and every time before Shabbat he used to throw a raw piece of meat into the חמי מייסר רבא, זה חומרה. אוקיי. והשתה, דאמר מר, נשתהר. והשתה דאמר מר,
שיוסיף על החולצה שנה הבאה. תרשום את זה, נשתער. חולצה שנה הבאה.
For the shirt, he said. ואשתא דאמר מר, now the master said, we have another principle, כל מידי דקשי להזיקה, לא מגללי. Anything that wind is not good for it, they're not going to open it on Shabbat. We said, נכון? With the flax in the oven, it's not going to open it on Shabbat because wind is not good for the flax. Therefore, I basra דקתיה, a meat of a גדי, איך אומרים גדי? goat. A meat of goat it's not good to have, wind is not good for it. Then I basra de gadia, vesharik, if it's sealed, the opening of the oven, so you have a gdi inside of the oven, a goat, and the oven is
Oven brick.
sealed around, yet the door is sealed. My father told me in Morocco, they used to seal the door of the oven before Shabbat. Arabi היה אחראי, and Arabi used to come on Shabbat day. Everybody were waiting over there. They sealed it because basar שנעלם מן העין. It's gonna be sealed. So
You just said the boy can't do it. You can't do it. You can't open it. So I'm
Uh-huh.
the boy.
I
No,
can't open it.
No, to eat.
no, so you open it and you're allowed to open it on
Nobody,
Shabbat.
yeah,
But
nobody
it was
play
the
with that.
oven of the guy, but they want to make sure nobody changed the food.
So why didn't they just go and open it? Why didn't
It
you
was
go?
owned by the guy, Maybe because it broke the cement. לא יודע אם זה בעיה.
That's what I'm saying.
אבל maybe דבר שאינו מתכוון, meaning the כוונה is to open, that's a result, by a guy we're lenient on it. It's in their bed.
כן, מותר, להרוס מותר, אם זה לא לבנייה.
Right. So they used to seal the oven. So he said a goat's meat in an oven that it's sealed, then it's fine to leave it over Shabbat. Because you don't want the wind to, you're not going to break the seal because of the wind. So you see here we have two requirements. We needed to have a gdi,
Goats is.
goats, the gdi is a lamb.
Yeah, it's a
Big
baby.
lamb.
זה.
A lamb.
לא משנה, נבדוק את זה.
Lamb, okay. Gdi.
Baby,
So we see that we have two requirements. One, gdi, the wind is not good for it. And the second requirement is sharik,
sealed.
sealed. So if you have the oven sealed. So again, V'ashta de'amar marna, the master said, Kol midi dekashe lezika lo megalel, anything that is bad for it, wind, they're not going to open it on Shabbat. Hari basra de gadia v'sharik, meat of a gdi and sealed, shapir dami mutar. De barcha, big ayil, gadol Rashi אומר, איך אומרים ayil? big D,
Deer?
a deer, yeah. ayil gadol, de barcha, a deer, velo sharik, barcha wind is not a problem, and if it's also not sealed, asur. So we see the requirement so far is
Seal?
wind and sealed. Wind is bad for it, and sealed. So gdi and sealed mutar, barcha, which is deer, and non-sealed asur.
With wind.
The Gemara saw now what will be the din? The gadia velo
It's not wind,
sharik,
Rabbi. It's just the sealed and not sealed.
and it's not sealed, right? No wind
Because the wind is going to
problem.
happen in either.
No wind problem, and it's not sealed. It's asur.
No wind problem.
And it's not sealed.
It's not sealed.
Then it's asur. By gdi, the
What if it's
wind
half
it's a problem.
requirement?
That's the next question. So we have two requirements: sealed and wind's a problem. That's a gdi.
אבל שתיהם יהיה wind.
Oh, if
No.
we're talking about if winds will ruin it.
For the gdi, it ruins the cooking. That's why I don't do it.
If you have a gdi, wind blow on the gdi is ruining. If you have wind blow on the deer, it's not a problem.
Because you don't want the wind.
No, it's not a problem to have wind.
For the, which one?
For the barcha, for the deer.
The buffer. It's not gonna ruin it.
Ah,
It's not gonna ruin the food.
so therefore you might open the oven on Shabbat. By the you're not going to open on Shabbat because the wind going to ruin it. So, but yet we see we have two requirements like the D. It's got to be sealed and it's got to be wind and sealed. So,
So by
The
the,
wind prevents you from opening it.
no, right, so I'm saying, so if in that case, Rabbi, so in the case of the gdi, אם אני כן פותח, שזה
no, you can't open the meaning you're not going. We are
Right, you're not
worried.
going to because you don't need it.
מצוין, לא,
אבל-
because זה לא טוב לו.
לא
You're not
טוב,
going to
אני
open.
מבין, אבל אם פתחתי,
אז אסור, בטח אסור לפתוח בשבת.
למה?
But the question is, do we make גזירה?
אבל זה מותר,
לא,
זה לא
השאלה היא,
משנה.
do we make גזירה or we don't make גזירה? We have a גזירה, am I going to mix the coals?
אוקיי.
So when will people mix the coals? When they open the oven and they're going to see it's not hot enough. So in case that people are not going to open the oven, then you don't need to make gzera.
But when he needs to open the oven to eat it,
And he needs, no, eating it is fine.
okay,
But during the
That's what I'm trying to
process,
say.
That's
עכשיו
what
הוא בא לפתוח.
during the process, it's not going to open the
אני לא
oven.
יודע מה הפרוסס, אבל אני בא
No,
לחושה
so
שמוכן.
like D, you don't
So
touch
you're
it.
checking it out.
No,
basically.
the concern
Checking
is
it
during the process. But when it's ready and it's over, when you open it, we are not worried.
אבל אין טיימינג.
No, but again, אתה חושש, maybe in the middle of the cooking, you want the chicken fully ready,
No,
not
so what's
ready.
the difference?
Here, you don't open it. Like rice, you know, my mother has a special הלכה למשה מסיני. You're not allowed to open the rice.
אסור.
ירק ואל יעבור.
אם יש שתן סתירה.
איזה פחד, היינו פותחים מציצים, you see the steam comes out, אתה סוגר ולא מספר לה.
היום המציאו סיר עיראקי דרך אגב, שהמכסה מזכוכית.
חזק, נכון,
אתה לא תציץ, אתה תקבל סתירה. זה סיר עיראקי.
So, like the classic, you don't open it in the middle, אחי, נגמר, אתה אוכל מה יש. יצא טוב, לא יצא חתיכות, אז עצבים. So, אותו דבר פה, you don't open it in the middle, so there is no need for גזרה.
What I'm trying to say is, בוא נגיד עכשיו שהוא כן פותח.
אין, הוא לא פותח באמצע הקוקים. then no גזרה.
לא,
בגזרה היא...
במותר דופן טוב.
נכון, לפתוח לאכול מותר בשבת, אין שאלה.
לא,
אבל השאלה היא...
זה מוכן.
יגדי, למה אני אומר את זה? כי הוא לא צריך את הרוח.
כי הוא לא יפתח באמצע. Anything you might open in the middle of the process, you're not allowed to do.
בגלל שהוא יחטא.
בלבלת? כל מה שהוא פותח באמצע, during the process, you might going to mix the course. By the end of the day, it's not going to mix. So
At
since...
the end, when the plate's already done, you're not going to mix the coals because the food's done. You should blow it out.
If it's finished, he's not going to mix it.
כן, by the end, לא חוששים to mix it. People mix it in the
It's
middle of
already
the
done.
process.
אז why wouldn't he mix it even in the middle? He wants to have
אבל
food.
לא, בגלל
Soon
the
to
wind,
mix it.
לא,
כן,
the
אבל-
wind gonna ruin it. It's not, anything the wind gonna ruin it, he's not gonna open the oven.
But it's sealed.
אין חשש שהוא יפתח את
זה
זה.
אין בעיה.
So we need two requirements.
That's the thing. לא?
אז
If
if
he opens
it's
it,
sealed,
he
why
doesn't
would
זה
he-
מה ששאלת מקודם, נדבר על זה עוד דקה.
לא,
אם
זה
יש
משהו
רק-
אחר.
אם יש רק אחד מהם.
לא, שיש את שתיהם, אז למה שהוא לא יפתח את זה? זה סגור.
הוא לא יפתח, כי זה לא טוב לאוכל.
אבל האוכל סגור, זה sealed עם
לא,
צמד.
לא אוכל סגור, האובן is sealed.
אז הוא לא יכול לפתוח את זה גם.
כן, הוא לא יפתח את האובן. If you open the oven in the
צודק.
middle, the wind
של
gonna ruin
האובן
it.
הזה.
האובן,
תהרוס את האוכל.
האובן היא סילט?
כן.
אז מה אכפת לי מרוח?
מה אתה אומר?
מה אכפת לי מהרוח?
זה יהרוס את האוכל.
It's one or the
לא
other.
תפתח בגלל.
Oh, so it's one or the other, right? If
two
it's not
requirements.
sealed, it's
בדיוק אבל זה דבר שלא מתכוון, אז הוא לא צריך את הרוח.
צודק.
Okay, let's give me a second.
לא?
No, let's see weiter in the Gemara. I think you're all bothered with the next stage. So, איפה אנחנו? again, ואשתא דאמר מר, כל מידי דקשי להזיקה לא מגלולה. Now the master said anything the wind is bad for it. People are not going to open it on Shabbat. היי בסרא דגדיא דמי טוב גדי ושרית אין סיל. שפר דמי מותר בשבת. דברכה ודיר ולא שרין that is not sealed will be אסור. The Gemara question, what will be the din דגדיא ולא שריק? או וגדי that it's not sealed.
That's what we
The
have.
wind, it's bad for it.
That's what we just said.
דברכה,
הרגע אמרנו the deer, it's the same thing.
לא, גדיא, גדי ולא שריק. כאן אמרנו גדי ושריק מותר. בקשי בס גדיא ולא שריק.
מה זה אומר? שהוא לא צריך את הרוח?
זה לא שריק, זה לא סתום. It's not sealed.
זה
הדלת?
כן.
כן, הדלת שלו.
אבל הרוח לא טוב לו.
באירוח לא טוב, but the wind is not good for it. And now, דברכה ושריק. If you have a deer,
And seal.
but it's sealed. So wind is not a part, but it's sealed. Can you still live it over Shabbat? מחלוקס, רבשי שרי ורב ירמיה מדיפתי, אסי רבשי שאת מותר. As long as one condition met, it's מותר. The Gemara says, ולרבשי דשרי, if according to רבשי it's מותר, but how would he explain the following ברייתא? והתניא, אין צולין בשר, you're not allowed to roast, בשר, onion וביצה and egg, אלא כדי שיצולו מבעוד יום, only if it was already roasted from before Shabbat. The Gemara says, according to him, why it's not allowed? What will be the case? The Gemara says, atam debarcha velo sharik. Talking about of a deer that is not sealed. That's the case you're not allowed. But if it's sealed or kdi, it's allowed. So the case of the brat that is not allowed, it must be barcha, it must be deer that it's not sealed.
זה מדבר על, זה אומר שאין צולין בשר שהוא מבושל?
לא, בשר רגיל, אסור לך לסלוט בשר בתנור. Why are you not allowed to roast meat in the oven?
להכניס אותו לא מבושל.
כן, כמו שאותו מקרה שאמרנו. What's the case you're not allowed to roast meat in the oven?
ותותר חד.
According to Ravashi, it must be barcha number one and open. Because if it's
לא
Seal.
הבנתי מה הקשר עם הביצים.
no, see, you're not allowed to roast, but we're talking about meat. That's all bright.
גדול.
One of the details was meat. Yeah, למה אסור? מה הבעיה? It must be ברכה ולא שרי.
רש"י אומר.
So now we explain. We said ve'ashta da'amar, so we learned that you need two, and we questioned what's the din will be if one condition met, and we said it's machloket between Ravashi and Ravashi and Rav Yirmiyah, and Ravashi is the one who permits if one condition met. That's one way to explain the opinion. Ikedi Amri, there is another way to explain the opinion. Ikedi Amri, some says the gadya of a goat ben sharik, ben lo sharik, shaper dami. Ikadam, some hold that the original statement is that one condition is enough. Therefore, by goats, even sealed, not sealed, mutar. The barcha of a deer, nami vesharik, if it's sealed, shaper dami, it's also okay. So the bright hold that as long as one condition met, it's okay. If so, what's a machloket? כי פליגי דברכה ולא שריק. The מחלוקת is if it's ברכה and it's not sealed. So are you worried or not? So, of course, אתה צודק. But we said, רב ירמיה דרבשי שרי ורב ירמיה מדיפתי אסיר. רבשי said, it's מותר. And רב ירמיה מדיפתי said, it's אסור. So according to this, if one condition met, everybody hold it mutar. According to this version. The shaila is, if none of the condition, barcha and lo sharik, Ravashi said it's mutar, Rav Yirmiyah said it's atzur. The Gemara says, Ravashi said it's mutar, he's going to have a problem with the Braita. The Ravashi, the shari, Ravashi will permit, but the Braita prohibit meat. V'atanye, en tzolim, not allowed to roast, batzar, batzal וביצה. אלא כדי שיצולו מבעוד יום, it's got to be roasted before Shabbat. According to Ravashi, even barcha that is not sealed, it's mutar. What's the case that the Braita will prohibit to roast meat? Gemara says, you know what's the case of the Braita? It's not an oven, it's on a barbecue. Hatam the Braita bebasra gumri. When the meat is on a barbecue, this is where we're concerned because it's accessible to be flipped. That's the case Ravashi said will be choshev. On a barbecue, it's accessible to be flipped.
So you have to touch it.
Yeah, it's open, it's in front of you. In an oven that is inside, Ravashi said, אני לא חושש, אפילו לא סיל. In an oven, I'm not חושש.
למה?
Because it's inside. But when it's on course in front of you,
פתאום הקורס עכשיו לא נחשב?
לא חושש, לפי רבשי לא. The only case רבשי חושש is when you have an open barbecue. It's in front of you, that people intend to flip the steak often. That's the only case that the Braita will be חושש.
Why does he not think about the coals?
There's no gzera. He says the gzera is only not in an oven according to him. According to Ravashi, the gzera is only on the barbecue itself.
יוסי.
זה רבשי. זה רבשי.
אז לפי רבשי מותר אפילו לקחת בגחלים.
אסור לחטות בגחלים. Am I gozer? Am I going to mix? By an oven, I'm not gozer. By a barbecue, I am gozer. Because barbecue is much more accessible for people to mix. So we have two versions to learn the machloket. Version number one was that you need two conditions to be met, and the arguing with one condition was met. Version number two, you need one condition. They are arguing if none of the condition met, bar chaim, it's not sealed, what will be the din? It's mutar. If so, what's the case that Ravashi prohibit? Only by a case of a grill, open barbecue.
Nice.
The Gemara says, Amar Ravine, Ai kara chaya, if you have raw pumpkins, shapir dami, it's also mutar. Kara chaya, it's also mutar to leave it in the oven. Kevan dekashi lezika, since wind, it's not good for pumpkins, it's okay. לא, kara the pumpkins. So it's okay to leave it in the oven. למה? כיוון דקשה לזיקה, since the wind is not good for it, כבשרה דגדיה, dami is like the meat of the gdi. of the young, of the gdi, of the goats, yeah, of the lamb, that wind is not good for it. So he said, karachaya is the same din of gdi. Whatever gdi is mutar, karachaya, raw pumpkins, will be mutar. Should we go a few more, or no, it's getting בסדר?
מה אומר עכשיו? הבנו שאין הבדל בבשר בסוף, זה לא משנה.
זה לפי רבשי, לפי אלה שיש הבדל, נעצור פה, לפי אלה שיש הבדל,